You know that moment when you realize your life is about to get complicated? For me, it happened while hanging upside down from a theater rope, listening to two girls argue about who should rescue me first. "I'll get her down, I know how the rigging works," one said. "She needs emotional support first, I should go up," the other insisted. And me? I was just trying not to pass out while wondering how a simple Christmas trip to Scotland had turned into the most chaotic love triangle of my 18 years on this planet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all started 3 days earlier, when my mom handed me a train ticket and ruined my peaceful winter break forever. If I'd known Christmas would end with me dangling from a stage rope upside down while two girls argued about who should rescue me, I would have stayed home in London. But let me start from the beginning, because this story deserves proper context, and also because I need you to understand that none of this was my fault. Well, maybe 5% was my fault, 10% maximum. My mom insisted I needed fresh winter air. "Harper, you've been cooped up in that flat for months," she'd said, shoving a train ticket into my hand. "Your aunt's theater in Scotland needs volunteers for their Christmas charity show. It'll be good for you." Good for me. Those 3 words should have been a warning sign tattooed across my forehead. So there I was, arriving at Thistle Peak Mountain Theatre in rural Scotland, also known as the place where Wi-Fi goes to die a slow, painful death. The theater looked like something straight out of a Victorian Christmas card, cozy, festive, and slightly haunted in that charming British way that tourists love and locals tolerate. My suitcase wheel popped off the moment I reached the entrance, a wonderful omen if there ever was one. As I struggled to drag my now lopsided luggage across the snowy ground, the front door swung open, and a girl stepped out. She was tall, graceful, wearing a beanie that somehow made her look effortlessly artistic rather than like she'd just rolled out of bed, which is what beanies did to me. "Need a hand?" she asked. Her voice was soft but confident, like she was used to taking charge without making a fuss about it. There was something calming in her presence, something that made the chaos of my arrival feel less overwhelming. Before I could answer, my traitorous suitcase rolled backward and nearly took me with it down the sloped driveway. Strong hands grabbed my arm, steadying me before I could add "fell down a mountain on arrival" to my list of embarrassing life moments. "Careful," she said, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "The ground's icy." "Thanks," I managed, trying to gather whatever dignity I had left, which wasn't much. "I'm Harper." "Avery." She picked up my broken suitcase like it weighed nothing. "Come on. Let's get you inside before you freeze, or before your luggage stages a complete rebellion." I followed her through the heavy wooden doors, and immediately the warmth of the theater wrapped around me like a hug. The interior was everything I'd imagined, and more props scattered everywhere. Tinsel hanging from ancient wooden beams, cardboard elves propped against walls and glaring at me with their painted eyes. The theater was buzzing with activity. People rushed back and forth carrying costumes, set pieces, and what appeared to be an alarming number of fake snow machines. "We're prepping for the Christmas charity show," Avery explained, noticing my wide-eyed stare. "It's organized chaos, but it works. Usually." "What do you do here?" I asked. "I'm the stage manager's daughter, so I basically do everything." She smiled, and something about that smile made my chest feel warm, despite the December chill still clinging to my coat. "Lighting, sound, set design, crisis management, you name it." I nodded, pretending I knew what stage managers actually did beyond yelling into headsets like they did in movies. That's when she entered. A girl with auburn curls bounced onto the stage like she'd been launched from a spring. She was humming a Broadway tune, her energy hitting the room like a physical force. Everything about her sparkled her eyes. Her smile. The way she moved like the world was her personal stage. "That's Luna," Avery whispered, and I caught something in her tone I couldn't quite identify. "Our lead actress." "She's a lot." Luna spotted me instantly, as if she had radar for new people. "You must be the girl from London," she called out, practically sprinting toward me and nearly knocking down a Christmas tree in the process. She skidded to a stop in front of me, her face bright with excitement. "Oh my God, we desperately need an extra pair of hands. Can you sew, dance, operate lights, provide emotional support?" I blinked. "I can. Not fall downstairs most days?" Luna clapped her hands together like I'd just announced I had a degree in theater production. "Perfect. You're hired." I don't think that's how I started. But Luna had already grabbed my arm and was pulling me toward the stage. Avery caught my eye and mouthed, "Sorry," before following us with my suitcase. The next hour passed in a blur. Luna gave me the world's fastest theater tour while simultaneously practicing her lines, doing vocal warm-ups, and critiquing someone's prop placement. The girl did not stop moving or talking. It was like watching a hurricane with perfect hair. "And this is where the magic happens," Luna announced, gesturing dramatically at the stage. "Well, where the magic will happen once we fix the lighting, repair that curtain, and convince the snow machine to stop making that horrifying grinding noise." "Sounds magical," I offered. She beamed at me like I'd said something profound. Eventually, Avery managed to extract me from Luna's enthusiastic clutches and guided me up a narrow staircase to the theater's attic, where apparently I'd be staying. "Sorry, it's cold," Avery said, opening the door to a small but cozy room with sloped ceilings and a window overlooking the snow-covered mountains. "The heating here is older than the Queen." "Was older than the Queen?" "I never know the proper tense for that now." I laughed. "It's fine. I once survived a winter in my school library, because they refused to fix the radiators. This is luxury compared to that." Avery laughed too, soft and genuine, and I felt that warmth in my chest again. "Get settled. Rehearsals start in 20 minutes. And trust me, you'll want to be mentally prepared." She wasn't wrong. Rehearsals began with what I assumed would be me quietly moving props in the background. Luna had other plans. "Harper, perfect timing," she shouted the moment I appeared. "I need someone to help me practice my dramatic fainting scene." Before I could decline or even process what was happening, Luna swooned backward into my arms like a Victorian heroine who'd just received devastating news via telegram. I caught her barely and stood there holding her while she lay draped across my arms, one hand pressed to her forehead. "How was that?" Luna asked, looking up at me with those bright eyes. "Very dramatic?" I offered. "Exactly what I was going for." She sprang up with alarming energy for someone who'd just been pretending to faint. Across the stage, I saw Avery roll her eyes so hard I swear I heard them click. She was adjusting a spotlight, but I caught the small smirk on her face. "Luna, maybe let Harper actually see the theater before you draft her into your scenes," Avery called out. "But she's perfect for emotional consistency," Luna protested, linking her arm through mine. "I need her energy nearby." I had no idea what emotional consistency meant, but apparently I was providing it now. Avery walked over and handed me a headset. "If she gets too much," she whispered, leaning close enough that I caught the scent of pine and something sweet. "Press this button, and I'll come rescue you." "Like a Christmas superhero," I whispered back. "Exactly," she smirked, and my traitorous heart did a little flip. During our first break, the weather turned wild. Snow whipped against the tall windows like someone was angrily shaking icing sugar onto the entire mountain. The wind howled loud enough to hear even inside the thick stone walls of the theater. Someone checked their phone and groaned. "The forecast says blizzard. A bad one." "How bad?" Avery asked. "Roads closed for 2 days, bad." Everyone groaned in unison. We were stuck here. Luna, however, grinned, like she'd just won the lottery. "More rehearsal time!" The universe had a twisted sense of humor. With the blizzard trapping us, the theater crew transformed the backstage area into an impromptu campsite. Sleeping bags appeared from storage rooms, pillows were distributed, and someone dragged out a space heater that made concerning clicking noises, but provided blessed warmth. It felt like the world's weirdest school trip, except I'd only known these people for about 4 hours. Avery helped hang fairy lights across the backstage area, creating a soft, warm glow that made everything feel less like a survival situation and more like an adventure. Luna tried to teach me breathing exercises for stage presence, which resulted in me inhaling wrong, exhaling wrong, and nearly choking on my own spit. She patted my back encouragingly while Avery watched with barely concealed amusement. Later that night, after most people had settled into their sleeping bags, I found myself wandering the theater's corridors. Old posters lined the walls, decades of Christmas shows, summer performances, children's theater productions. The history of this place soaked into every wooden beam and velvet curtain. "Can't sleep?" Avery's voice came from behind me. I turned to find her standing there, hands in her pockets, hair slightly mussed from where she'd taken off her beanie. "Just exploring," I said. "This place is beautiful." She moved to stand next to me, close enough that our shoulders brushed. "My mom says the theater is magic. That it brings people together. Even people who fall over their own shoes. Especially them," I added, and she smiled. We stood there in comfortable silence, looking at the old posters. The fairy lights cast soft shadows across Avery's face, and I found myself noticing details: the small scar above her eyebrow, the way she bit her lip when she was thinking, the quiet strength in how she carried herself. Then Luna burst around the corner, sliding across the wooden floor like it was an ice rink. "Girls, hot chocolate break," she announced, thrusting mugs overflowing with marshmallows into our hands. Avery gave Luna a look I couldn't quite decode, something between amusement and annoyance, fondness and frustration. The next morning brought more rehearsals, more chaos, and more opportunities for me to embarrass myself. During scene setup, I accidentally knocked over a carefully stacked pile of painted snowflakes. Luna gasped like I'd committed a cardinal sin. "Harper, those are essential to my Act 2 entrance." "Luna, they're cardboard," Avery said flatly, already helping me pick them up. "They're art," Luna corrected, hands on her hips. As Avery and I gathered the snowflakes, her hand brushed against mine. A tiny spark shot through my palm, so sudden and unexpected that I almost dropped the snowflakes again. She didn't pull away immediately, and for a moment we were both very still. Then Luna suddenly looped her arm through mine. "Come on. I need your energy near me on stage for the next scene." Energy. I barely had a functioning spine at this point, let alone energy to share. We practiced Christmas carols next. Luna insisted on singing like she was performing for the Royal Opera House, her voice soaring through the theater with professional precision. Avery muttered under her breath, "We get it. You can hit high notes." I tried joining in, and my voice cracked like a dropped ornament. Both girls looked at me, then laughed, though Avery's laugh was warm and kind, while Luna's was delighted by the entertainment. My humiliation was at least festive. During prop setup that afternoon, Luna grabbed my hand to pull me toward a pile of costumes that needed sorting. "You've got such gentle hands," she said suddenly, looking down at our joined hands. I choked on my own oxygen. Across the room, Avery glanced over sharply, her jaw tightening before she turned away to adjust stage lights with what seemed like unnecessary force. That evening, the power flickered. The storm outside howled like it wanted to personally steal our Christmas and leave coal in its place. The main lights died, leaving us with only the warm orange glow from backup generators. "Romantic, isn't it?" Luna whispered, somehow right next to me again. Avery walked past, muttering, "It's literally freezing." My heart was choosing chaos, and I was powerless to stop it. The crew decided to hold a mini Christmas concert to lift everyone's spirits. Someone dragged out a keyboard, and to my surprise, Avery sat down and began to play. Her fingers moved across the keys with quiet confidence, creating a melody that was beautiful and melancholic and perfect. Luna sang, her voice filling the theater with warmth. But I noticed her eyes kept drifting toward me, holding my gaze for moments that felt too long, too significant. I didn't know where to look at Avery's calm concentration as her hands danced across the keys, or at Luna's glowing confidence as she performed like she was born for it. After the concert, Avery walked me back to my attic room. The hallway was quiet, most people already settled for the night. "You did great today," she said softly. "I tripped over a broom twice." "Yeah," she smiled. "Adorable." My brain blue-screened. Did she just... was that? Right as I reached my door, Luna appeared from seemingly nowhere, like a festive jump scare. "Harper, good night hug." Before I could respond, she wrapped her arms around me in a warm, lingering embrace that smelled like vanilla and stage makeup. Down the hall, I heard Avery's footsteps stop. As I lay in bed that night, listening to the storm rage outside, I couldn't stop replaying the day. Avery's quiet warmth, her gentle touches, the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Luna's overwhelming charm, her bold affection, the way she seemed to light up every room she entered, and me, right in the middle like the Christmas turkey nobody asked for. Tomorrow, I thought as sleep finally pulled me under, tomorrow things would surely calm down. I had never been more wrong about anything in my life. Morning came far too quickly, announced by a soft knocking on my attic door that pulled me from dreams I couldn't quite remember but knew involved stage lights and auburn curls and quiet smiles. "Harper?" Avery's voice filtered through the old wood. "Rehearsals start in 10 minutes. Luna's already warming up her everything." "Ha!" I groaned, rolled off the bed, and promptly fell onto the floor like a snowman losing structural integrity. "Grace. Thy name is not Harper." By the time I made it downstairs, Luna was indeed warming up, doing dramatic stretches in the middle of the stage, like she'd been personally summoned by a West End director in her sleep. "Harper, come warm up with me," she called, waving enthusiastically. Avery intercepted me, pressing a mug of hot tea into my hands. "She'll survive 2 minutes without you. I swear, you're trying to keep us apart," Luna pouted. But there was something playful in her tone. Something that felt like flirting but might have just been her natural energy. I sipped the tea perfect temperature, just the right amount of sugar, and wondered how Avery had already figured out how I took my tea after knowing me for barely a day. During scene blocking, I was assigned to help with lighting cues. Avery guided me to the control booth, a small enclosed space filled with switches, dimmers, and technology that looked simultaneously ancient and complicated. "Okay," she said, standing close behind me, her hand gently guiding mine along the controls. "Soft touch. Don't panic. And definitely don't press the red button. What happens if I do?" "Nothing, probably," she smirked. And I could feel her breath warm against my ear. I absolutely panicked. Down on stage, Luna was rehearsing her solo, her voice filling every corner of the theater with crystalline clarity. But then she suddenly stopped, her eyes scanning the darkness until they found me in the lighting booth. "Harper, can you stand over here instead?" she called, pointing to a spot at the edge of the stage. "I perform better if you're in my eyeline," Avery muttered under her breath. "She performs better if the universe revolves around her." I pretended not to hear the tension sizzling like chestnuts roasting on an open fire, festive but potentially dangerous. The snowstorm outside worsened as the day progressed. Ice coated the windows in crystalline patterns, and the wind howled like it wanted a speaking role in our production. Someone tried to check the weather forecast but couldn't get a signal. "Good news," the director announced during our lunch break, though her tone suggested it was anything but. "We're officially snowed in for another day. Possibly 2. Everyone groaned. Luna whispered to me, "More quality time together." Avery, standing on my other side, whispered, "Someone kill me now." We took our break in the costume room, which was basically Narnia but with more sequins and a disturbing smell of mothballs and old velvet. I tried on a Christmas elf hat as a joke, and Avery actually giggled, a sound so unexpected and genuine that it made my heart stutter. "You look like a confused Christmas intern," she said, adjusting the hat on my head with gentle fingers. Before I could respond with something undoubtedly awkward, Luna snatched the hat and placed it back on my head herself, her fingers brushing through my hair in a way that felt intentional. Avery's smile faded like someone had flipped a switch. While helping organize costumes, a task that somehow required 3 people according to Luna, she kept accidentally brushing against me. Every time she reached for a hanger, her shoulder pressed against mine. Every time she passed me a costume piece, her fingers lingered just a moment too long. "Sorry. Gosh, these coat hangers are dangerous," Luna said after the 5th accidental touch. Avery muttered from across the rack, "Sure. Blame the hangers. I wanted to sink into the costume rack and live there forever, hidden among the moth-eaten Victorian dresses and questionable pirate costumes." When we returned to the main hall, Avery was setting up microphones for an afternoon rehearsal. She handed me a spare. "Mind helping?" Luna swooped in like a Christmas hawk spotting prey. "Actually, I need her for vocal support during my next number." Avery raised an eyebrow. "Vocal support?" "Emotional presence," Luna clarified, as if that explained everything. I was being fought over by 2 girls during Christmas. It was the dream and nightmare combo I never knew I didn't want. The director, bless her, asked for volunteers to help paint the backdrop for the final scene, a winter landscape that currently looked more like a beige void than a magical Christmas setting. "Pick me," I said, perhaps too eagerly. Not because I loved painting, but because it meant escaping the increasingly complicated dynamic developing between Luna's enthusiastic affection and Avery's quiet hurt. Avery joined me at the painting station. Luna looked personally betrayed, like I'd eaten her last mince pie and then told her Santa wasn't real. We painted in comfortable silence for a while, Avery focused and precise while I tried not to make the pine trees look like aggressive green triangles. "You know," Avery murmured, not looking up from her careful brushstrokes, "you're better at this than you think." "I've painted exactly 3 things in my life," I admitted. A banana for art class, a cloud that my teacher said looked concerning, and my own jeans by accident. She laughed, properly laughed, the kind of laugh that seemed to warm the entire room despite the December chill seeping through the old walls. Just when things felt nice, peaceful even, Luna stormed in. "There you are." She marched toward us, somehow managing to smudge a streak of white paint across her cheek in the process. I thought you'd gotten lost. Or kidnapped by aggressive reindeer. I tried very hard not to stare at the paint on her cheek, or the way her curls had come loose from her ponytail, or the genuine concern in her eyes that suggested she actually had been worried. Avery definitely stared, but in an oh for goodness sake way rather than the way I was trying not to stare. Come help me rehearse my duet, Luna said, grabbing my hand and pulling me toward the stage. I promise not to sing at full volume. Maybe. I looked back at Avery, who stood there with her paintbrush, arms crossed, waiting to see what I would choose. And honestly, I didn't know what to choose. So I let myself be pulled along, which was probably choosing by not choosing, which was its own kind of choice that I'd definitely overthink later. I ended up helping Luna with the duet, which involved me standing awkwardly while she sang a complex harmony that I was apparently supposed to inspire through my mere presence. Her voice filled the empty theater, bold, warm, confident, everything she was. Then, mid-song, she grabbed both my hands and stared directly into my eyes while belting out a line about love found in unexpected places. I forgot how breathing worked, just completely forgot the basic biological function that had kept me alive for 18 years. In the corner of the stage, partially hidden in shadow, Avery watched silently. She wasn't angry. Anger would have been easier to deal with. Instead, she looked hurt, like she'd expected something different from me, and was disappointed to be proven wrong. Guilt punched me right in the festive jingle bells. After rehearsal, Luna pulled me aside into a quiet corner backstage, away from the bustle of people packing up for the evening. You're fun, you know that? She said, her usual brightness dimmed to something softer, more genuine. You make this whole Snowstorm situation less boring, less lonely. She leaned closer, too close, and my brain screamed, system overload, while simultaneously doing absolutely nothing to stop whatever was happening. I really like having you here, Luna whispered, and there was a vulnerability in her voice I hadn't heard before. Later, I found Avery in the lighting booth, fixing a broken spotlight with the kind of focused intensity that suggested she was using the task to avoid thinking about something else. Do you need help? I asked from the doorway. She shrugged without looking at me. I'm fine. Her voice wasn't cold exactly, just disappointed. And somehow that hurt more than if she'd been angry. Anger you could argue with, fight against. Disappointment just sat there in your chest like a stone. I crouched beside her, watching her competent hands work on rewiring the light. Did I do something wrong? She hesitated, her fingers stilling on the wires. You don't owe me anything, Harper. We barely know each other. It's just... She trailed off, then sighed. Luna gets everything handed to her. The lead role, everyone's attention, whatever she wants. And I'm tired of watching her win every time. She didn't say what she meant, didn't say I'm tired of watching her win you, but I heard it anyway, hanging in the air between us like stage smoke. Before I could reply, before I could figure out what to say to make this better, Luna appeared from behind a curtain like an overenthusiastic jack-in-the-box. Good news! We're doing a full run-through tonight. Everyone's required. She was bouncing with excitement, completely oblivious to the tension she'd just interrupted. Avery nearly threw the screwdriver, not aggressively, just instinctively. Like her hand wanted to launch something in frustration, but her brain caught up just in time. During the run-through, disaster struck almost immediately. The stage floor was slippery from a melted prop snow machine that someone had forgotten to turn off. The fake snow had turned into fake ice, which was considerably more dangerous. Guess who slipped first? If you guessed me, you win the prize of being completely unsurprised. My feet went out from under me in a graceful move that would have made a baby giraffe look coordinated by comparison. Guess who tried to catch me? Both Avery and Luna. At the exact same time, lunging from opposite sides of the stage, we all crashed into a pile of props and a tangle of limbs and Christmas decorations. I landed on a giant plush snowman while Avery and Luna argued above me, their faces inches apart. You pulled her too hard, Avery snapped. You didn't pull her at all, Luna fired back. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, seriously considering whether I could simply evaporate into stage mist and cease to exist. Once we untangled ourselves, which took longer than it should have because neither of them wanted to be the first to let go of my arm, we took a mandatory break. The director looked frazzled. We'll finish the run-through tonight after dinner. Everyone rest up and try not to break any bones. As we walked toward the sleeping area, Luna deliberately brushed her shoulder against mine, slow, intentional, impossible to mistake for accident. Avery noticed. Of course she noticed. Then Avery gently touched my arm, guiding me around a pile of props I hadn't seen in the dim hallway lighting. Luna noticed. Of course she noticed. My heart was doing the Macarena while my brain screamed for mercy. By evening, the blizzard sounded like a vacuum cleaner having an aggressive argument with the entire mountain. Inside, everyone rushed around preparing for the final run-through, the energy frantic and slightly desperate. I felt both Avery and Luna orbiting around me like two different weather systems competing for the same atmospheric space, and I was the low-pressure system in the middle, apparently. While adjusting props backstage, Luna grabbed my wrist softly. "Walk with me," she asked. And there was something nervous in her voice that was very unlike Luna, who approached everything with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. I nodded, mostly because she looked genuinely uncertain, and that vulnerability made it impossible to refuse. She brought me to a quiet corner backstage, where the Christmas string lights cast everything in a warm, golden glow that felt like being inside a snow globe. "Harper," she began, wringing her hands. Luna, the girl who commanded stages and attention with ease, was actually wringing her hands like she was in a period drama. "I know I can be a lot. Too loud. Too much. Too everything. But I really like you. You make this whole place brighter, and not just because we're surrounded by Christmas lights." Before I could process what was happening, before my brain could catch up to the moment, she leaned in and kissed my cheek softly. The kiss was warm, gentle, and my heart did a complete cartwheel. Just as Luna stepped back, just as I was trying to remember how words worked, someone dropped a prop behind us. The crash echoed in the quiet space. We turned. Avery stood there, frozen, holding a snowflake decoration that she'd clearly been about to hang. Her face fell, not dramatically, not with anger, but with quiet, heartbreaking resignation. "Sorry," she whispered, so softly I almost didn't hear it. Then she turned and walked away. Guilt washed over me like someone had poured an entire bucket of cold snow down my jumper, and then added ice cubes for good measure. "Avery, wait," I called, running after her. "Please." She didn't stop until she reached the lighting booth, her safe place, her refuge. She sat on a crate, fiddling with a cable, not looking at me. "You don't have to explain," she said softly. "I'm used to being second choice, used to being the one people settle for after Luna's brightness gets to be too much." That hurt to hear more than anything Luna could have sung at full volume. I sat beside her on another crate, the small space forcing us close together. "You're not second choice," I said firmly. "I'm just confused. This whole week has been chaos. I've known both of you for barely 2 days, and I feel like I'm in the middle of something I don't understand." She finally met my eyes, and I saw something there that made my chest ache, hope fighting with resignation, want fighting with self-protection. "You're allowed to be confused," she whispered. "But I need you to know something. I care about you a lot more than I planned to. A lot more than is probably smart after 48 hours. Before I could reply, before I could tell her that I felt the same pull toward her that I was trying desperately to understand, the director's voice echoed through the building. "Everyone on stage. Final run-through. Now." Avery stood slowly, and instead of walking away like I expected, she gently took my hand. Only for a second. Just long enough to squeeze it softly, but it was enough to make my entire world tilt on its axis. The rehearsal was chaos from the opening number. Microphones squeaked like dying mice. A cardboard reindeer fell over during a dramatic scene. Someone backstage sneezed so explosively that Luna screamed mid-note, breaking character completely. But the worst part wasn't the technical disasters. The worst part was that both girls kept glancing at me during their scenes, and each glance felt weighted with meaning I wasn't equipped to handle. During the final number, Luna reached out her hand toward me dramatically as part of her choreography. It was supposed to be directed at the audience, but her eyes were locked on mine. Avery noticed from the lighting booth. I saw her jaw tighten, saw her grip on the controls go white-knuckled. The stage lights flickered, as if even the electricity was stressed by the tension. Right as Luna performed her big spinning move, a loose ribbon on the stage floor betrayed her. Her foot caught, and she fell, stumbling directly toward the orchestra pit with its 3-foot drop and hard floor. I didn't think. I just lunged forward, my hands grabbing her waist and pulling her back from the edge. We crashed into a pile of props because of course we did. That was apparently my destiny, now falling into props with beautiful girls. We landed in a heap of fake snow and tinsel. Luna blinked up at me, her face inches from mine, her breath coming in surprised gasps. "You saved me," she whispered dramatically, because Luna couldn't help being dramatic even in genuine moments of danger. "I mean, yeah," I said, slightly breathless. Mostly because I didn't want to explain to the director why the lead actress broke her spine 2 days before the show. Avery rushed over, her face pale with worry. "Are you two okay?" Luna wrapped her arm around mine, possessive and deliberate. "We're fine. She saved me." Avery looked from Luna to me, and something broke in her expression. She saw Luna's arm around me, saw how close we were lying, and I watched her carefully rebuild the walls I'd watched her slowly lower over the past 2 days. "Good," Avery said flatly. "That's good." Then she turned and walked away. When rehearsal finally ended mercifully, blessedly ended, I needed air. I needed space, to think, to breathe, to figure out what I was feeling. I stepped out onto the small balcony that overlooked the mountains. The storm had finally calmed, soft snow drifting gently down like feathers, peaceful and quiet after days of rage. I exhaled, my breath fogging in the cold air, and tried to sort through the tangled mess of feelings in my chest. The door creaked open behind me. Avery stepped out, hands buried in her pockets, her face soft and unsure in a way I'd never seen before. "Hey," she murmured. "Hey," I managed, my voice rough. She moved closer slowly, carefully, like she was approaching something fragile. Snowflakes caught in her dark hair, melting slowly. My heart melted right along with them. "I didn't want to make things harder for you," Avery whispered, stopping when our shoulders brushed. "But I can't pretend I don't feel something. I've tried for 2 days, and I can't do it anymore." I looked up at her, really looked, her rosy cheeks from the cold, her steady eyes that saw through all my awkwardness to something she apparently liked anyway. The quiet strength in how she stood there, being vulnerable despite every instinct probably telling her to protect herself. In that moment, standing in the softly falling snow with the warm light from the theater spilling onto the balcony, I knew exactly what I wanted. And before I could overthink it, which I always did, I leaned in. She leaned in too, meeting me halfway. We kissed. It was soft, slow, warm, like the whole world had stopped spinning just to give us this perfect moment. Her lips were cold from the winter air but warm underneath, and when her hand came up to cup my cheek gently, I felt like every confused feeling of the past 2 days suddenly clicked into place. When we finally pulled back, Avery smiled, really smiled, the kind of smile that lit up her whole face. "I've wanted to do that since you fell down the stairs on your first day," she admitted. "Wow, so romantic. You watched me humiliate myself and thought, yes, that's the one." She laughed, nudging me gently. "You started it by being adorable." Then the door swung open again. Luna stood there, framed in the doorway, and for once there were no dramatics. No grand gestures or theatrical responses, just quiet hurt written across her face and tears gathering in her eyes. "I didn't realize," she whispered. "I should've, but I didn't." "Luna," I started, guilt crushing my chest. "No, it's okay." She blinked rapidly. I didn't know. I didn't mean to hurt you," I said quickly, stepping forward. "I didn't mean to hurt either of you. I followed what felt right." Luna nodded slowly, her usual brightness dimmed to something raw and real. "I get it. I do." She looked at Avery, then back at me. "Just promise me we'll still be friends? I don't want to lose both of you because I couldn't handle not being chosen." "You're not losing us," Avery said softly, speaking for the first time since Luna appeared. "You're not losing anything." We stepped back inside where the warm theater lights wrapped around us like a blanket. Luna straightened herself, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Well," she said, her voice only slightly wobbly, "Avery always was good for you, even if it kills me to admit it." Avery flushed pink, and I nearly melted into the antique carpet. "I called dibs on being the fun aunt in whatever future chaos you two cause," Luna added, and there was a ghost of her usual smile trying to break through the hurt. Avery laughed softly. "Deal." Later that evening, the cast gathered for a mini Christmas celebration since the actual performance had been postponed due to the storm. Fairy lights twinkled everywhere, hot chocolate steamed in mismatched mugs, and someone played "Last Christmas" on the old keyboard with questionable enthusiasm but genuine joy. For once, everything felt peaceful. Avery sat beside me on the edge of the stage, our legs dangling over the side. Luna plopped down on my other side after a moment's hesitation. nudging me with a weak but genuine smile. So, Luna said, are we good? Are we? I asked carefully. She sighed. We will be. It hurts right now. I'm not going to lie. But I'd rather have you both as friends than lose you completely because I'm too proud to accept that you chose each other. Avery reached across me to squeeze Luna's hand briefly. Thank you. Luna squeezed back. Don't make me regret being mature about this. Wouldn't dream of it, Avery said with a small smile. We sat there together, 3 girls who'd gotten tangled up in unexpected feelings during an unexpected snowstorm, trying to figure out how to move forward without losing what mattered. As midnight approached, we stepped outside one final time. The storm had completely passed, leaving behind a world transformed by snow. The sky was clear and full of stars, more stars than I'd ever seen in London, stretching across the darkness like scattered diamonds. Avery wrapped her scarf around my neck without asking, because she was absolutely right that I would have forgotten I was cold until I was already freezing. You know me too well for someone I've known for 2 days, I said. Some people you just understand, she replied softly, taking my hand. Luna stood slightly apart, looking up at the stars, and I reached out my other hand to her. She hesitated, then took it. The 3 of us connected under the vast winter sky. This is weird, right? Luna asked. This whole situation? Extremely weird, I agreed. But good weird, Avery added. Eventually. Luna laughed, and it sounded almost genuine. Yeah, eventually. Standing there in the quiet aftermath of the storm, I realized that Christmas at Thistle Peak Mountain Theater hadn't gone anything like I expected. I hadn't become a star. I hadn't mastered lighting controls or learned to sing on key. I hadn't stopped falling over props or making a fool of myself. But I'd found something better, something real. I'd found people who really saw me, clumsiness and awkwardness and all, and chose me anyway. I'd found Avery, with her quiet strength and gentle hands and the way she made me feel steady even when everything was chaos. I'd found Luna's brightness, and learned that even when things didn't work out the way she wanted, she could be brave enough to choose friendship over winning. I'd found myself in the middle of a snowstorm, surrounded by theater magic and Christmas lights, and feelings I didn't know how to name. And somehow, impossibly, I'd found home. As we headed back inside, Avery's hand warm in mine. Luna walking beside us with her head held high despite the hurt I knew she was still feeling. I thought about how Christmas miracles weren't always what you expected them to be. Sometimes they were messy. Sometimes they hurt. Sometimes they involved falling into piles of props and getting caught in complicated feelings and hurting people you cared about even when you didn't mean to. But they were real. And that made them worth it. The theater welcomed us back with warmth and light, and as I looked around at the fairy lights and the sleeping bags and the people who'd become important to me in just 2 chaotic days, I knew I'd remember this Christmas forever. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And sometimes, real is better than perfect. So if you've made it this far with me through the snowstorms and stage disasters, through the messy feelings and tangled hearts, thank you. Seriously. Thank you for letting me share this chaotic, beautiful disaster of a Christmas with you. If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you that love doesn't always come in neat packages with perfect bows, hit that like button. Subscribe to Love Beyond Rules. Because trust me, life keeps throwing me into these situations, and apparently, I'm destined to share them all with you. Drop a comment and tell me, Team Avery, or were you rooting for Luna? Or maybe you're just here for the prop-falling disasters I don't judge. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear a story about messy love, finding yourself, and surviving Christmas chaos, share this with them. We're all just trying to figure out this whole feelings thing together. Until the next adventure and knowing my life, there will definitely be a next adventure. This is Harper, signing off from Thistle Peak Mountain Theater. Stay warm, stay chaotic, and remember, sometimes the best love stories are the ones that don't go according to plan.